it's Joy here, and I am back from Brazil. I am back home, and I wanted to do a reflection video talking about my experience going abroad for 3 weeks. I went to Salvador, Bahia, Brazil for 2 weeks, and I was in a homestay, and then I went to São Paulo, Brazil, which is a huge city, for 1 week, and I stayed in a hotel. I traveled with some students from USC for a class called Cultures of Brazil and Lusophone Speaking Africa. There were about 21 students in addition to the professor and TA that were traveling, and we all had such an amazing time, and I really wanted to share my experience with you guys, just in case you are thinking about studying abroad or you want to know how I thought studying abroad was for a few weeks. And I am doing this video in partnership with Diversity Abroad. Diversity Abroad offers resources to students of diverse backgrounds, including scholarships, connections with internships and work abroad, and all of that good stuff. So make sure you check out their YouTube channel. I made a few videos that are on their YouTube channel, and also follow them on social. All of that information and links will be in the description box below. So I want to make sure you guys check that out after you finish watching this video. So the first thing I want to talk about is my homestay. I stayed in an apartment with a host mom as well as her son and her husband, and my experience was so great. I was given 3 meals a day. She cooked a new meal every meal. For breakfast, I would have plantains, couscous, fresh fruit juice, amazing, just really good food. She would cook steak, she would cook lasagna, just everything I was eating. The food was really good, and I really appreciated how welcoming she was. She called me I appreciate how welcoming she was. She called me daughter in Portuguese. Also, my family didn't speak English, so that was interesting. I speak Spanish and I speak English, but I do not speak any Portuguese, so that was interesting. I picked up listening very easily, but talking was the harder part, so I would have to translate sometimes or just say it in Spanish/English and see if she picked it up. But listening, I did pretty well, way better than I thought I would. And I knew that was like a concern of mine going into, but I was also excited about that because I know that I want to do a semester abroad in the future. And if I'm in a homestay where it's a different language, I feel like I will definitely pick up the language after a semester, because I picked up a lot of Portuguese after just a few weeks there. So that was something really exciting. Also, the homestay was cool. My homestay was lit because we had air conditioning. Some of the other students didn't have air, and it's like 80 some degrees and humid in Salvador, and I just needed that. Yeah, that was great. Also, everything was nice. Like, anything I needed, she did my laundry. So I was pretty much living the life for 2 weeks in my homestay. I would walk to school every morning, like a 10-minute walk with my friend who lived in the building next to me, and it was a pretty safe area. It was called Victoria, which is the nicer part of Salvador where a lot of richer upper class people live. So I felt pretty safe going to school every day. And if you wanted to see more about my typical day, go ahead and watch my day in the life video, which I will put up here. Yeah, so you can go ahead and watch that, and it's just a vlog of a typical day of my life in my homestay. So I talked a little bit about going to class, but to get more specific about the course I was taking, we would have a couple hours of lecture in the morning where we would go over different readings and articles we read, as well as a book we read, which was Jorge Amato's Tent of Miracles, which is about life in Salvador, Brazil. So if you're going there, I recommend you read that book and also learn a little bit more about the history of Salvador. The class was really intensive. We were doing a semester's worth of work in 4 weeks. We spent our first week in Los Angeles, and then the rest of the course, the rest of the 3 weeks. So we did have quizzes, we had 2 essays, and we also had a final exam at the end of the program, and it was a 4-unit course. So I did get elective units for that. But just so you know, if you are taking a course while abroad, just realize there will be work Just depending on the length of your program, it will depend how condensed your work is. So ours was pretty intensive. All of our lectures and visits to museums and different people we talked to, we had to write reflections on. So everything was pretty much graded on that part. Let's talk about language. So in Brazil, they speak Portuguese, so no English. Some people do know English. The younger people really knew English well because they would study it in school, but mostly you would have to figure out how to say it in Portuguese. So we did have a few hours of Portuguese class, but nothing really crazy. So anything I would have to either figure out how to say it in Spanish, then make it sound Portuguese, or just ask people who spoke Portuguese on our program to help me translate. So language is something that is really important to know before you go. So I say if you're going to somewhere where you don't speak the language, at least learn the basics like hello, how are you, directions, because you'll be driving around, maybe taking a taxi or Uber. Different things like your allergies or food dietary restrictions, definitely know how to say, because the first meal my mom bought me was some street food called acarajé. It had shrimp in it, and I'm allergic to shrimp, so I just say eu tenho alergias a camarão, which is I have allergies to shrimp, more or less. If you speak Portuguese, don't make fun of my accent, but I would have to say that. And then she was like, okay, cool. So she didn't make me any more shrimp. So yeah, so language is important. Definitely learn the critical things before you go abroad. Lastly, culture. I loved Brazil. We got to do so many different things. We took cooking classes. We took a samba class. We did some capoeira classes, which is the traditional martial arts. We got to do music classes, learn instruments, just so much stuff that our professor integrated into our program so we could learn more. We went to Candomblé temples, which is the Afro-Brazilian religion that still exists there. We went to Catholic temples. We went to Catholic churches. We basically did a little bit of everything just so we could get the full experience and also relate things to our readings. This trip was different than any other one I've taken because we really delve into the history and why things are the way they are today, and it enriched the travel experience so much, because usually you'll go somewhere maybe a week and you'll just go to the beach or just do the touristy things and you don't understand why things exist. There's a long and dark history of slavery in Salvador, so many of the places we visited used to hold slaves, be slave markets, and it was really intense sometimes, but I appreciated learning the history while we were there. So that is something, if you're not taking a class while abroad, make sure you take the chance, at least for yourself, to learn more about the history of the places you're going to and where you're living. So overall, I rate my trip to Brazil a 11 out of 10. It was so great. At first, I almost didn't go on this trip. Brazil was just a spur of the moment decision, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't go. And then the professor was like, we have one spot left. Do you want it or not? And I was like, yeah. And I ended up going. So I'm so happy I went. If you want more information on Brazil or studying abroad, make sure you leave a comment below, as well as checking out Diversity Abroad's website, because they have tons of resources on going abroad for the first time. So I thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye!